In this video, we will discuss the non-vanishing of the series L1 chi for real non-principal character chi. So here we will take chi as the function which takes only real values, which means which takes only values 1, minus 1 and 0. And this is non-principal character chi. So we have proven three equations, namely A, B and C in the last video. So we will denote the sum in the first series in the equation A by L1 chi. So we will denote L1 chi by summation chi n upon n from 1 to infinity, and we will prove this L1 chi, this is non-zero whenever chi is non-principal character, and we need this result to prove Dirichlet's theorem. Firstly, we prove here only for real non-principal character. So we have this theorem. If chi is a real valued character, modulo k, and let we have a n, which is equal to summation chi d over all the divisors of n, then this a n, this is greater than equals to 0 for all n, and in fact this a n is greater than equals to 1 whenever n is a square. Now we will firstly find the value of capital A at the prime power p raised to, let us say, alpha. So by definition, an is summation chi d over the divisors, so it will be just summation t varying from 0 to alpha chi of p raised to t. So this is when t is equal to 0, then chi of 1, that just becomes 1, and then the rest of the values t varying from 1 to alpha chi of p raised to t. Now chi is real valued function, so only possible values for chi p are 0, 1 and minus 1. So if chi is 0, then a of p raised to alpha, this is 1 plus summation chi of p raised to t, and this summation becomes 0 because chi of p is 0 and chi is a completely multiplicative function. So if chi of p is 0, then chi of p raised to t, that is also 0. So this just becomes 1. And secondly, if chi p is 1, then all the values in this summation are 1, so it will be just alpha, then alpha plus 1. So a of p raised to alpha, this is just alpha plus 1. And if chi p is minus 1, then it takes two values, then a of p raised to alpha. So if chi of p is minus 1, then chi of p square is 1, the next term is minus 1, then 1. So if alpha is odd, then the last term here will be minus 1, and that will be cancelled with this, so it will become 0, and when it is even, then it is 1. So in all the cases, a of p raised to alpha has value 1, alpha plus 1, 0 or 1. So in all the cases, this is greater than equals to 0. And we know a of p raised to alpha, this is greater than equals to 1 if alpha is even. because when alpha is odd this is 0, and in all other cases a of p raised to alpha here is 1, and here a of p raised to alpha plus 1, a of p raised to alpha is 1. So we can write a of p raised to alpha is greater than or equals to 1 if alpha is even. So if alpha is even, that means p raised to alpha, this is just a perfect square. Now a of p raised to alpha is greater than or equals to 1 if p raised to alpha is a square, and because a is summation of chi over the divisors, and chi is completely multiplicative function, so a is also multiplicative function. If a is multiplicative function, then a at any n, that will be greater than or equals to 1 if n is a square, because if n is a square, then all the prime factors in the factorization of n, they are also in the square form, so all a of p raised to alpha, that will be greater than or equals to 1. So because of the multiplicativity of a, we can say a of n is greater than or equals to 1 if n is even, sorry, n is a square. Now the next theorem. Here we will take chi as real valued non-principal character. So for any real valued non-principal character chi modulo k, let us take an as summation chi d over the divisors d of n, and we take bx as summation a n upon root n over n less than equals to x. Then we have to prove number 1, bx approaches to infinity as x tends to infinity. Secondly, bx is actually 2 into root x L1 chi plus order of 1 for all x greater than or equals to 1. So from these two conditions, we can conclude that L1 chi is non-zero, because bx approaches to infinity as x tends to infinity. So this right hand side should approach to infinity as x tends to infinity, but here we can see order of 1, this is a fixed term, so if this term L1 chi is 0, if L1 chi is 0, then this right hand side just becomes order of 1. So in that case bx will become order of 1, and which cannot tend to infinity as x tend to infinity. So this L1 chi, this must be non-zero. So we can conclude from these two parts that L1 chi is non-zero. So here we are proving L1 chi is non-vanishing function for real valued non-principal character chi, but we need this to be true for all the real valued characters. So firstly we prove first part, and to prove first part we write bx, actually we will use the previous theorem. Bx is summation n less than equals to x a n upon root n, and from the previous theorem we know this a n, this is greater than equals to 0 for all n, and in fact it is greater than equals to 1 if n is a square. So we can write it summation n less than equals to x as n equal to 1 m square. So for all the integers n which are squares, of some other integer m, this an is greater than equals to 1. And for all the other integers which are not square, actually we split this summation into two summations. One is over the integers which are squares and other is over the integers which are not squares. And for the integers which are not squares, an is greater than equals to 0, so we can write this summation is greater than equals to the sum over just the integers which are squares. And for the integers which are square, this is further greater than equals to 1, so we can write this is 1 by root n, and the n which is a square quantity. So we can write this summation as summation over m less than equals to root x, because n is m square and n is less than equals to x, so we can write summation over the integers m less than equals to x square. So this root n becomes just m, so this is 1 by m. Now this is just a partial sum of the sequence 1 by m, and we know this tends to infinity as x tends to infinity because the harmonic series summation 1 by m diverges. So this summation 1 by m less than equals to this tends to infinity as x tends to infinity, since we know summation 1 by m varying from 1 to infinity, this is a divergent series. So if this tends to infinity, then bx, which is greater than equals to this, that also tends to infinity, which proves the first part. Now we prove the second part. So for the second part, we write bx as summation n less than equals to x 1 by root n into an. So we will put the value of an, summation chi d, over the divisors. So we can write it summation. Now since d is a divisor of n and n is less than equals to x, so we can write here the summation over the pair qd such that qd is less than equals to x. Now we put the value here, qd upon root n. Root n can be written as root of q into d. And now we have a theorem in the previous chapter, third chapter actually, which says this summation fd gq, where this f and g, they are arithmetical functions, over the pair qd such that qd is less than equals to x. This can be written as summation fn capital G of x by n, where capital G is partial sum of small g function, plus summation gn f of x by n. So this capital F is partial sum of the small function f, small f function, then f of a, g of b. Here the first summation is over n less than equals to a, and the second is n less than equals to b. Now here this a and b are the integers whose product, are the numbers whose product is equal to x, and capital F, G and H, they are capital F and G, they are just partial sums, which means fx is summation fn over n less than equals to x, and gx is summation gn over n less than equals to x. So we have this result from the previous chapter. So we apply this result here by taking a and b is equal to root x, because we need a and b such that their product is x. So we take here a and b both are root x, and we take, because we have here chi d upon root q into root d, and we need here fd gq. So we will take fn is equal to chi n upon root n and gn as 1 upon root n. So we apply this result by taking a and b is equal to root x and fn as chi n upon root n and gn as 1 by root n. So our bx will be just summation fn g of x by n over n less than equals to a plus small gn, then capital Fx by n minus f of a g of a, where this capital F and G are. So firstly, this capital G, this is just summation 1 by root n over n less than equals to x. So again, by some theorem in chapter 3, we have this is equal to 2 root x plus a plus order of 1 by root x, where this a is constant. Let us say this equation 1. And again, fx is summation chi n upon root n for n less than equals to x. This is by equation C of this is by equation C in the previous video, summation chi n upon root n. This is just summation chi n upon root n from 1 to infinity plus order of 1 by root x. Now we know this series is convergent series because chi n is just a root of unity. Chi n takes only values, mod chi n only takes values either 0 or 1. So mod of chi n upon root n is less than equals to 1 by root n, and the series 1 by root n is convergent. So by comparison test, this is also convergent. So we can write it b plus order of 1 by root x, where b is sum of this series because this is convergent series, where b is summation chi n upon root n. So let us take this as equation 2. Now f of root x, g of root x, this is value of gx from equation 1 is this, and value of equation fx is equal to this by equation 2. So we put the values of f of root x and g of root x here. So we will get here this b plus order of 1 upon, because fx is b plus order of 1 by root x, so f of root x is just 1 upon x raised to 1 by 4. This is the value of f, and similarly the value of g, x raised to 1 by 4, a order of 1 upon x raised to 1 by 4. So when we multiply these two, we will get this will become 2b x raised to 1 by 4, and all other terms, the principal term is this into this, and all other terms are a into b, which is a constant. This term is 1 by order of 1 by x raised to 1 by 4. Similarly, this term is just order of 1. This term is order of 1 by x raised to 1 by 4, and the product of these two order terms, that is order of x raised 1 upon x raised to 1 by 2. So all these terms can be included in order of just 1. So we can write f of root x, g of root x is just 2b x raised to 1 by 4 plus order of 1. So we will put all these values in this bx. So therefore bx just becomes summation n less than equals to root x chi n upon root n. So we put here the value of g, x upon n, and that is 2 x upon n plus a order of n by x plus summation 1 by root n less than equals to root x. Now the value of f of x by n, and that is b plus order of n by x, then minus f of root x, g of root x, and that is just this 2b x raised to 1 by 4 plus order of 1. So we will simplify these and we'll get 2 root x summation chi n by n plus A and then order term next B into summation 1 by root n, then order of then last to be x raised to 1 by 4 plus order of 1. So this first term, this is 2 root x L1 chi, and all the rest of the terms can be included in order of 1. So here summation n less than equals to root x chi n upon n. Again, by equation C, this is just summation n varying from 1 to infinity chi n upon root n plus order of 1 upon x raised to 1 by 4. So that is a convergent series, so that is a constant, and plus order term of order of 1 upon x raised to 1 by 4. Similarly, when we calculate this, we know mod of chi n is less than equals to 1, so this summation is just less than equals to root x, so this becomes order of 1. Then this is also order of order of 1 upon x raised to 1 by 4. Then again this is summation 1 over the number of terms which are less than equals to root x, so this term becomes order of 1. Similarly, this term becomes order of x raised to 1 by 4, and last term is order of 1. So all the terms can be included in order of 1. So this completes the proof of the second part, and first and second part both conclude that L1 chi is non-zero for real valued non-principal character chi modulo k.